So, so the first thing we must always remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-yawma akmaltu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam ad-dina. That this day have I perfected your religion for you, and have completed my favor upon you, and have chosen Islam for you as a religion. And so one of the very beautiful things that we have for us is that we have been given a perfect religion, that Allah has perfected the faith for us. And so we don't have to try to have version 5 of Islam, version 6, version 7, and to reinvent the religion every so often based on the different times and climes and historical era. Allah has made it perfect, and so it has come down to us without needing any editing or any updating. And so sometimes when we try to understand how to apply it in our environment, we tend to want to change the principles to suit our environment instead of re-understanding how those principles will work in our environment. So that's something to bear in mind. So before we start, there's a couple of terminologies that we need to get clear. Number one is halal. Halal is that which is permitted with respect to which no restriction exists, and the doing of which Allah has allowed. So halal is those things which are permitted in our faith, and that it is defined by Allah, of course. Haram. Haram is that which Allah has absolutely prohibited. And whoever engages in haram may be punished both in this world and the hereafter. Some examples of haram are murder, theft, adultery. It's important to know that you may say something is haram and the next thing is haram, but there are levels or a wide range within the haram that are not of equivalent severeness. So that's why you have major sins and minor sins. So if I say to you, murder, somebody commit murder, it's haram. But if I say to you that like for example, to eat the pig is haram. So you have murder and you have eaten pig. And you have different levels of haram. Some people say music is haram. And so there are different levels of haram. But haram is that which is prohibited, and Allah can punish you for them. There's a term called makruh, and it is something which it's preferable to avoid doing. It is something that is not liked, it is disliked, disproved, but it's not haram. Example, divorce is one of those things which it's preferable not to do it, but it's called makruh. And then fard. Fard or wajib are the two terms that gets used. Sometimes there's a nuanced difference between fard and wajib, but it's basically fard and wajib is used interchangeably most of the time. That which is commanded by Allah, that which Allah gives an order for us to do. And so if you neglect the fard, then it could result in the punishment from Allah. Example, Allah has asked us and ordered us to pray. The Prophet ﷺ very specifically instructed us, and throughout the Quran we see Allah is talking about establish the salah. So that is a command. Now fard have two dimensions to it. It's called fard al-ain, which means that that particular fard, like salah, is compulsory on every single person. Every Muslim, it is compulsory on them, the fard al-ain. The fard kifaya is that which is compulsory on the whole community. And if a few of them do it, then the community would be absolved of blame. But if nobody in the community does it, then all of the whole community will be blamable for that particular neglect. One example of this is janazah. So you have janazah salah. As long as a few people go and pray the salah, then the rest of us, the responsibility we get absolved from that. Another example is i'tikaf. Once a few people from the community go and make i'tikaf, it absolves everyone from having to do it. But if nobody does it, then you have a problem. Mustahab is that which is recommended to do. In other words, if you do mustahab, then you get reward. But if you don't do it, you don't get punished. For example, fasting on Monday and Thursday. If you do it, then you get a reward for it. And if you don't do it, then you don't get punished. And the last term is mubah, which is that which is allowed. So mubah is like, if you want to eat, I eat. If I don't want to eat, I don't eat. You don't get reward or punishment for either, unless you begin to change that mubah by your intention, and then you're doing it correctly, and you're doing it for a reason that it becomes a kind of worship. But mubah is any general act. You get down, you sit up, you walk towards your car, you turn your car keys. All these are mubah that you don't get punishment or reward for it. Your day-to-day running around, in which why do you do it or you don't do it? It doesn't have any major consequence in terms of punishment and reward. And so our actions get classified into these areas. So we have within the halal group 4 areas here: fard, mustahab, sometimes it's referred to as mandub, mubah, makruh. Those are all within the halal section of the actions. And then you have haram. And so in trying to understand our actions and the severity and the consequences, these are the categories which it gets put into. So every action that we do will fall into one of these categories. And so it's important for us to understand these so that we may be able to know how to proceed. Now, in terms of the principles of halal and haram, most of these that we're doing tonight was taken from a very famous book written by Dr. Yusuf Al-Qaradawi called Al-Halal wal-Haram fil Islam, in which he lays out some of the principles. And these principles are what the scholars use to determine whether things are halal and haram and how to classify all of this. So they worked off of some principles to determine, when you come to the scholar and say, is this halal, is that haram? They would use these principles to make a determination. And so tonight, hopefully, we will get a little bit acquainted with some of those principles, and it will benefit us by, first, we'll get to understand how scholars are making their position and how they are arriving at the different rulings that they do. Number 2, it will put us in a better place that we can also determine for ourselves whether something is haram or halal. We can be in a better, more knowledgeable position to decide those issues as well.